Hello everyone, I come with a new review. Today will be about The Hobbit, which will be a little more detailed. Here I present this beautiful edition that comes with a lot of the Ring books. I'll be showing you some images contained in this book. It's beautiful, as you can see. This is a box set including The Lord of the Rings, which I will also address more in detail, but it depends on the length of this video. I do not want to lengthen it, so possibly there will be another video talking about these 3 other books about The Lord of the Rings. The story begins with, in a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. For many it was the beginning of a universe of fantasy and adventure, completely new worlds full of amazing and enigmatic creatures, and especially characters that many came to have a singular affection for the descriptive way in which the author presents and develops them. The Hobbit is the beginning of the legendarium, a term used by the author himself to describe the mythology of Middle-earth, and a prequel to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I've been a fan of the Lord of the Rings films for as long as I can remember, and also of the adaptation of the 3 Hobbit films. It's insane for a book of this size to make 3 films of over 2 hours each. But anyway, to talk about The Hobbit, we must talk about its author. John Ronald Reuel Tolkien was an English writer, philologist, science necessary to understand the essence of the legendarium, poet and linguistic, considered one of the great exponents of modern fantasy literature or epic fantasy, a style that would amalgamate different mythologies, religious rites, especially Judeo-Christian and Nordic pagan mysticism, and his use of philology for the creation of new languages using his works, initially created on the basis of Scandinavian dialects and the use of the runic alphabet. The Hobbit was created in the 1920s as stories for the entertainment of his children, a habit that continued throughout much of his work and was later published as a book in 1937. The Hobbit is set in the Third Age of the Sun and tells the story of the adventure of Bilbo Baggins, a hobbit of the Shire, Gandalf the Wizard, and a company of 13 dwarfs, led by Thorin Oakenshield, prince and heir of Erebor, a kingdom desolated by Smaug the dragon. Thorin's company sets out an adventure in search of ridding the homeland of Smaug's clutches. The story is about a little hobbit named Bilbo Baggins, who lives in a quiet region of the Shire called the Hill. One day he receives an unexpected visit from the wizard Gandalf, who proposes an adventure, which Bilbo refuses as he doesn't think he is given to adventures. Gandalf doesn't give up and ends up convincing the little hobbit, along with a whole company of 13 dwarfs, to undertake the mission of a lifetime, to help the dwarfs reach and recover the Lonely Mountain, where the city of Erebor and all its treasures, gathered years ago by the fearsome dragon Smaug, are to be found. But on top of all that, along the way Bilbo and the others will encounter numerous difficulties such as trolls, goblins, skinwalkers, the Black Forest and elves, which will make this the adventure of a lifetime. It is a very special book because of the way of narrating, where it combines prose with verse in the so-called songs. Unlike the films, most of the characters here sing and express themselves through song, and it is something that we can find throughout the book. If you are a famous being in Middle-earth, your name must appear at least in a lyric poem telling of your exploits. Despite what many may believe, it is a very light and enjoyable read. It doesn't have the complexity of his famous trilogy, and it is ideal to get close to the author. The narration is in the third person, with an omniscient narrator who speaks periodically to the reader, telling him details or anticipating things in the story, like the story that it is, with a lot of action and moments of humor, where the feelings overwhelm you. I recommend it to anyone because rarely will you find a book that is so well written, that captivates you so much, that wastes so much imagination, and that ends up being addictive, with reflections on ambition, bravery, greed, evil, and friendship. Regarding the characters, the main one is obviously Bilbo, our famous Hobbit, who suffers the biggest evolution in the whole work. Bilbo goes from being a quiet and kind man who enjoys life to a brave and honest man who in his life only wants to go on adventures. As we see in the films, the part did not change much. Then Gandalf, he is the same as always, only a bit funnier than in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, as this book is not in the same tone. Of the 13 dwarfs who set out on the adventure, obviously the one who stands out is the king under the mountain, Thorin Oakenshield, as he is the one who leads them on the quest, a noble and honest dwarf, but who is driven by ambition. Then of the secondary characters, so to speak, I only want to highlight two because they are my favorite parts of the book. The first one is Gollum. Every time I get to that character, I enjoy him a lot because of his personality and way of speaking, and above all because of his riddles. The other one is the part where Bilbo meets Smaug. I love the dialogue they have. It's so surreal, and at the same time you believe in your head as if it was normal. It's incredible. The other characters, I'm going to skip them because I'm not going to talk about each of the dwarves and I don't want to touch the most important points of the story. I will limit myself to commenting that when you know its sequel, The Hobbit seems like a book of little children, but it forms a beautiful connection with The Lord of the Rings. I think Bilbo's story is more personal and more beautiful than Frodo's, but that misses a lot of things that could have given more depth to the story. The ending of the book doesn't quite convince me. I think it loses a lot by having a villain with such a notorious weak point, and the way they discover him is just bizarre. On the other hand, the final battle is a joke, because it is from Bilbo's point of view, and we lose a lot. Those who read it understand what I mean. It is also important to know that in the book there is no mention of significant and powerful characters in the story, such as Galadriel or Legolas. Much less is there any mention of a romance between the elf Tauriel. This is a character totally invented by Jackson for the films. We don't know with what purpose, although it is probably to provide the love trio that could not be missing. In this case, mentioning Legolas, who felt some attraction for the elf, and Tauriel for the dwarf Kili. And there are many other events that are not mentioned in the book. I leave them to you to discover. I want to recommend this book to anyone who loves fantasy stories and worlds full of fantastic creatures. The writing is ideal to read even with the youngest of readers. The dynamics between characters, the settings, the situations, and the creatures keep the reader interested. Tolkien can be a bit scary when you haven't started reading it yet, but I guarantee this is the best place to start. The Hobbit will fill you with joy, tension, and sadness. A wonderful epic work for any reader. I hope you liked the video and see you in another video to talk a little bit about The Lord of the Rings. Bye bye.